Have you ever been told to count your macros but have absolutely no idea where to start? Or maybe you have just been counting calories and wondering if that's actually enough. Today, I'm going to break down both and what they actually are, how they work, what science says about carbs versus fat, and then I'm going to walk you through exactly how I coach our clients so that you are not spending your entire day obsessing over numbers. I've helped hundreds of women lose 10, 20, 30, 40 plus kilos and keep it off for life with these tactics. First, what are calories? Let us start with calories because this is the foundation of everything. A calorie is just a unit of energy. Your body needs energy to do literally everything. Breathe, move, think, digest food, build muscle, everything. The food you eat gives your body that energy. Now, your body has a total amount of energy it burns every single day. We call that your TDEE, your total daily energy expenditure. This includes your metabolism at rest, how much you move during the day, your workouts, and even the energy it takes to digest the food you eat. And here is the truth that no diet in the world can change. If you eat more calories than your body burns, you will gain weight. If you eat fewer calories than your body burns, you will lose weight. That's it. So your calories are your total. They are the big picture number. Everything else we're going to talk about today sits inside of that number. 2, what are macros? So if your calories are the total, macros are what builds up that total. Macros are short for macronutrients. There are 3 main categories of food: protein, carbohydrates, and fat. Everything you eat falls into one or more of these categories, and each one carries a different amount of energy per gram. Protein has 4 calories per gram, carbs have 4 calories per gram, fat has 9 calories per gram, which is why fat-heavy foods tend to be so calorie dense. So when you eat, say, a piece of chicken with rice and some avocado, you are eating protein, carbs, and fats, and those 3 things add up to your calorie total for that meal. Macros are not separate from calories. They are your calories, just broken down further. Now, this is where a lot of people get confused. They hear about counting macros and they think it's more advanced or more accurate than counting calories. But really, it's just a more detailed version of the same thing: protein. Why it is the one you cannot ignore. Out of the 3 macros, protein is the one that matters most when it comes to fat loss and body composition. And it is especially important for the women over 40 watching this. Protein has something called a thermic effect. This is the energy your body actually burns just to digest and process what you have eaten. Out of all 3 of the macros, protein has the highest thermic effect by far. For every 100 calories of protein you eat, your body burns around 30 of those calories just breaking it down. Carbs sit around 10 to 15%. Fat is between 0 and 10%. So protein is essentially more expensive for your body to process, which means you are netting fewer actual calories from it than the label suggests. Protein also keeps you fuller for longer. It is the most satiating macronutrient, which means it genuinely reduces hunger and cravings between meals. When you are trying to eat in a calorie deficit, feeling full is everything. It is the difference between sticking to your plan and raiding the pantry at 9 p.m. And this is the part I really want you to hear. Protein is the only macronutrient that helps you hold on to your muscle. And the amount of muscle you carry is one of the biggest drivers of how fast your metabolism runs. Your muscle tissue is metabolically active, meaning it burns calories just to exist. Even at rest, a body with more muscle on it burns more calories throughout the day than a body with less muscle. So the more muscle you can hold onto while losing fat, the higher your metabolism stays, and then the easier the whole process becomes. Now, here is why this really matters for women. From around your mid-30s, your body naturally starts to lose muscle mass if you're not actively doing something to hold on to it. The process is called sarcopenia, and it happens gradually. We are talking roughly 3 to 8% of muscle mass per decade. But by the time women hit perimenopause and menopause, the drop in estrogen actually speeds this up, because estrogen plays a role in how well your muscles respond to the signal that builds and maintains them. What this means in practice is that a woman in her 40s or 50s is fighting harder to hold on to the same amount of muscle that came more easily in her 20s. And research actually backs this up. Studies shows that as we age, the body becomes less sensitive to the anabolic effect of protein, meaning it needs more protein to get the same muscle protecting response it used to get on less. So if anything, your protein needs actually go up as you're getting older, not down. And this matters so much because what a lot of women experience as the metabolism slowing down with age is actually largely explained by this quiet, gradual loss of muscle tissue. It's not just hormones, it's not just age. A big part of it is that without enough protein and resistance training, the body loses its most metabolically active tissue and the metabolism drops as a result. So when I talk about protein being non-negotiable, this is exactly why. It isn't just looking about a certain way or hitting some fitness goals. It's about protecting your metabolism, your strength, your bones, your energy. and your long-term health as you age. When you're in a calorie deficit and your protein is too low, your body does not just lose fat, it breaks down muscle for energy too. The lower your protein, the more muscle you lose alongside the fat. Studies show that on a normal protein diet, around 30 to 40% of the weight loss can actually come from the lean mass. Bump that protein up and that number drops to around 20%. So more protein means more of the weight you are losing is actually fat, and more of your muscle stays exactly where it should be. That is why in our coaching program, protein is not optional, and it is the first number we set, and everything else we just build around it. Okay, now this is the part I know a lot of you are here for, because the question comes up constantly in my DMs. Doesn't matter if you eat more carbs or more fat. Is keto better? Is low fat better? What does the science actually say? And here's what the research shows. When calories are the same and protein is the same, studies show no significant difference in fat loss between a high carb diet and a high fat diet. Let me say that again because it is important. When calories match and protein matches, it does not matter whether your remaining calories come from mostly carbs or from mostly fat. Fat loss will be the same. This is exactly why keto seemed so magical when it first became popular. People were losing weight faster on keto, but when the research looked closer, it's not because fat was being burned more efficiently on low carb diets. It was because keto naturally tend to be higher protein, and that higher protein was creating a bigger thermic effect and better satiety. When research matched the protein between keto and non-keto diets, the difference disappeared. On top of that, studies on overfeeding have shown that a high-fat overfeeding leads to more body fat gain than high-carb overfeeding does, because carbs and protein are both much harder for the body to store as fat. Your body would genuinely rather use carbs for energy or store them in your muscles as glycogen before it starts packing them away as body fat. Fat, on the other hand, has very little else to do once your baseline needs are met. So, carbs aren't the enemy. Fat is not the enemy. The enemy is just being in a consistent calorie surplus without enough protein. This does not mean carbs and fat do not matter at all. They do for health, hormones, energy, and performance. But for fat loss, the research is pretty clear. Get your calories right, get your protein right, and the split between carbs and fat is flexible. So why do we still talk about macros at all? Because even though carbs and fat do not need to be perfectly dialed in for fat loss, the split does affect how you feel, how you perform, and how sustainable your diet is day to day. Too little fat and your hormones can suffer, especially for women. Your body needs dietary fat to produce estrogen and other hormones, so dropping it too low for too long will start to cause problems. A general minimum to aim for is around 0.8 grams of fat per kilo of body weight, just to keep your hormones functioning properly. Too few carbs and your energy, mood, and your training performance starts to drop, especially if you are lifting weights or doing any high intensity exercise, because carbohydrates are your muscle preferred fuel source. So both matter, just not in the obsessive track every gram way that most people think. So before I tell you what we do, I want to talk about what most people do, because I think it explains a lot of why women come to me having already tried tracking and still not getting the results they want. Most women who track calories only. And look, calories are the foundation, so there's nothing wrong with that. But calories alone tell your body nothing about what to do with the energy you are eating. It's like having a budget, but no categories. You know the total, you just have no idea where it's going. And what happens when you only track calories without paying attention to the protein and fiber? A few things, and none of them are good. First, you lose muscle alongside the fat. We already talked about how low protein leads to lean muscle loss, but what that means in practice is that even if the number on the scales go down, your body composition is not changing in the way you want it to. You are losing weight, but you're not getting leaner. You might lose 5 kilos and still feel soft, still feel heavy, and still not look the way you expected to at that number. That is not a you problem, that's a protein problem. Second, your metabolism slows down more than it needs to. Because you are losing muscle, and muscle is metabolically active tissue, your body starts burning fewer and fewer calories at rest. So the same calorie target that worked in the month, one stops working in the next 3. The deficit that used to produce results closes itself. You end up cutting more and more just to keep moving, and eventually there is nowhere left to go. This is the cycle that most women know extremely well. Third, your hunger is unpredictable and hard to manage. Without enough protein and fiber, your satiety signals are all over the place. You might be technically within your calorie target and still feel ravenous by 3 p.m. Still be hunting through the pantry at night, still finding it almost impossible to stay consistent. It is not willpower, it's your body missing 2 things that actually regulate hunger, protein, and fiber. Without them, no amount of discipline will make it easier. 4, your energy crashes. Without enough fiber, your blood sugar spikes and drops throughout the day. You eat, you feel okay for a bit, and then you crash. You crave something sweet, you reach for it, you feel guilty, and the cycle just repeats. The energy inconsistency is not just uncomfortable, it directly undermines your training, your mood, your sleep, and your ability to make good food decisions for the rest of the day. 5, your gut health suffers. Fiber is what feeds the good bacteria in your gut. Without enough of it, your microbiome shifts, and that affects everything from digestion and bloating to immune function, inflammation, and even how your body processes and stores fat. Women who are chronically under-eating fiber often have persistent bloating, sluggish digestion, and a general sense of just not feeling well, even when the calories look right on paper. And here's the thing, most women experience all of this and think the answer is to try harder, cut more, be more disciplined. But none of that fixes the actual problem, which is that the approach is incomplete. Calories alone are not enough information. Your body needs to know what to do with those calories, build muscle, fuel energy, support hormones, feed your gut. And for that, you need protein and fiber in the picture. Now let me show you what happens when you do track all three. When your protein is high enough, your body has what it needs to hold onto muscle while losing fat. That means the weight you lose is almost entirely coming from fat. Your body composition changes, you get leaner, your metabolism holds up because your metabolically active tissue is still there. The deficit stays effective for longer because your body has not had to downregulate. When your fiber is high enough, your hunger is genuinely manageable. You feel fuller after meals, the 3 p.m. crash flattens out, the blood sugar roller coaster steadies, cravings reduce, and your body is not desperately looking for quick energy to compensate for the drop. And your gut is functioning the way it should. Less bloating, better digestion, better mood, better sleep. When your calories, protein, and fiber are all working together, your energy is stable across the day. You can actually train with intent, you recover better, you sleep better, you wake up and feel like your body is working with you rather than against you. That is the difference between just being in a calorie deficit and actually nourishing your body into fat loss. One produces a number on the scale, the other produces a body that looks different, feels different, performs differently, and a metabolism that is in better shape at the end of the process than it was at the start. So now you know what the science actually says. Let me show you exactly how I put this into practice with my clients, because this is where it gets really simple. So here is where I land with all of this, and this is the approach I use with our clients. We track 3 things: calories, protein, and fiber. And we let carbs and fat balance themselves out within whatever is left. Once your calories are set for your goal, whether it's fat loss, maintenance, or building, and your protein targets is being hit consistently, the split between your remaining carbs and fat genuinely does not need to be obsessed over. You fill in the rest with the foods you enjoy, the foods that work with your lifestyle, and the foods that keep you satisfied. Adding fiber as a third tracking target rather than tracking carbs and fat separately is actually where I think most nutrition advice falls short, and it is something I care a lot about in my coaching. Most people are getting less than half the fiber they need in a day. The target for women is around 25 grams per day, and the majority of women I speak to are sitting somewhere between 10 and 15 grams without realizing it. Fiber matters for fat loss in a really practical day-to-day way. When you eat enough fiber, it physically expands in your stomach and sends a signal to your brain that you are full, which means you are naturally eating less without fighting hunger. It also slows the digestion of everything else you have eaten, which keeps your blood sugar more stable throughout the day. And stable blood sugar means fewer energy crashes, fewer cravings, and a much easier time staying within your calorie target. Fiber also has a thermic effect. Similar to protein, your body burns calories processing it, and it feeds the good bacteria in your gut, which then supports digestion, reduces bloating, and can contribute to overall health in ways that go well beyond just weight loss. So instead of telling a client to hit a specific carb number and a specific fat number every single day, which gets tedious fast, is one of the main reasons people quit. And we just check in if you're getting your calories met, getting enough protein in, getting enough fiber in. And if the answer is yes to all 3, then the rest takes care of itself. It simplifies the process without cutting corners on results. And when something is simpler to follow, people actually follow it. And when people actually follow it, they see results. What does this actually look like in practice? So say you're eating 1,600 calories a day. Your protein target might sit around 120 to 140 grams. Your fiber target is 25 grams. You hit those 3 numbers and you build the rest of your meals around what you enjoy. Whether that is more bread, pasta, more avocado, and nuts is generally up to you and what makes the plan feel sustainable for your life. You don't need to stress that your fat was 58 grams instead of 55. You don't need to panic that your carbs were 170 instead of 150. As long as your calories, protein, and fiber are landing where they need to be, you're doing the work that really matters. This way, you can still enjoy your life, get results, and it not consume you. So, calories are your total energy in versus energy out. Macros are what builds up that total. Protein is the non-negotiable because of what it does for your metabolism, your hunger, your muscles, and especially your long-term health as a woman as you age. The science is clear that carbs versus fat does not determine fat loss when calories and protein are matched. And the way I coach my clients is to focus on 3 numbers: calories, protein, and fiber, and let the rest flex around your life. If that sounds like an approach that would actually work for you and you want to know more about how we do this inside Shape, the link to apply for coaching is in the description below. But if you want to learn how to lose 20 kilos, give this video a watch.